We are in the midst of perhaps the biggest technological revolution in history, and some people just don't get it because they're not using AI right.
What I see is, like, for example, if you try to get ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini to write you something, it's really shitty and it's not reliable, and I just can't stand to see what it writes.
In this video, we are going to explore why Ben Affleck isn't using AI right. In this video, we're going to explore agentic harnesses, which is what Ben Affleck is missing. And not only that, we're going to use an agentic harness to write a screenplay that is not really shitty and it is reliable every time. Wait a minute, what's an agentic harness? Imagine an agentic harness is a long-term autonomous agent that can give you high-quality output every single time. So we're going to explore what they are, how they work, and how you can get started with an open source template today. And even if this sounds really far out in advance to you, my goal in this video is to really bring it to a level of understanding, to see how it works, understand some of this new terminology, and basically how to get started on your own. The learning curve is not as high as you might think, and there's never a better time to learn than right now. We're going to go through agentic harnesses in 3 parts. First, coming up here, I'm going to show you how it works in action. We're going to write a screenplay. This is the screenplay I wrote. It's 75 pages. It's like a real movie. It's really good. I'm actually super impressed, and Ben Affleck probably would be too. But this screenplay was written using the safe agentic harness that Scott is then going to explain after we build it in the demo. And then after Scott explains us how this tech works, we're going to jump into how you can use the base GitHub repo, the template, to create your own safe agentic harness for whatever use case you can imagine. And I'm going to create a harness that generates storyboards and consistent videos with AI that we can turn into a full movie. I gotta tell you, this is really exciting and inspiring stuff if you're trying to be creative out there with AI.
Squad 7, topside. Executing subscription mandate, Block 14, Unit 9.
Yeah, I mean, if you've always wanted to make a movie like me, but it just never happened, like, this is a dream come true. And what better guy to walk us through this than Scott, who's been working on this stuff a long time.
We've actually been working on this kind of strategies for a couple of years, from version 1 of this harness to all the way to now. It took a lot of work. We all heard in 2025 about agentic or agents. I mean, that's definitely here now. Some of the missing pieces are really being put into place. Certainly the harness that we're covering today is going to cover some of the technologies that have been released that are filling in some of the gaps. It's 51st dates, right? Every time you talk to an agent, it's like they just don't even know your name.
So while all of this might sound kind of complicated, the truth is learning how to set up an agentic harness will essentially take your AI abilities to a level where nothing can stop you. I don't know how else to put it. This is enterprise grade AI automation, people. It's a big deal. This kind of thing is what will catapult the quality of whatever you're making out there, whatever you're building, the content, whatever it is, to new heights.
At the end of the day, everyone is dealing with the same things, from context raw. One-shotting is just, of course, super not good at this point. I think people understand that. You know, a lot of the techniques that you've learned over the last year or two, you need to start adapting to these new harnesses and new ways of thinking, because it's going to stabilize your results.
The agentic harness is how you train your AI to do the best possible job every single time without having to babysit it.
In the past, it's knowledge-based. Let me go search knowledge-based. Let me compare prompt. Let me think about. Let me make plan. Now it's, let me look at your plan. Let me see what you want. Now let me make a plan. And oh, look, I've got these kinds of skills in my repertoire that just based on keywords of what you're asking for, I can activate different portions of myself and then get to work more like you do as a human. It's one thing if I give you a book about cutting down a tree. It's a different thing to take you out and show you how to like get physical and cut down a tree. That's how big of a difference this is.
So by the end of this video, you will not only understand what a self-correcting creative partner with long horizon autonomy is, but you'll be able to set one up on your own.
You're going to start to understand this idea of what does it mean for long horizon autonomy for agents to go out and do work. We've seen a lot of examples that are kind of really close to that. You've got access to OpenAI's Pro and that deep research, or Notebook LM, Perplexity, and all their long-term agents that they have that they're showing you, the different types of services that are out there for different types of agents. And that's like, you know, enterprise, they're building that, you're taking it on as a consumer. What we want to talk about is how do you start taking that kind of technology and thinking and applying it towards whatever domain you're working on.
And you can get started building one of these in just about 2 hours. With this template, you can get started with your own agentic harness pipeline for whatever you want to do at enterprise quality anytime. This is not Claude bot stuff. This is real professional results here. High quality output. So in this video, we're going to make the screenplay, then we're going to dive under the hood, then we're going to create the harness for storyboarding and creating the video. And before we begin, I just want to remind you that if you like learning AI from the ground up, not just using the hype tools, but learning the foundations and infrastructure, this is what I like to explore on this channel. So hit that subscribe button. Okay, let's dive in. Let's get started writing a screenplay that doesn't suck with AI, dedicated to Ben Affleck.
I just can't stand to see what it writes.
Now in this demo, I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code along with Claude Code. And we're going to get started here at the GitHub for the story systems template that Scott has provided us. And if you're new to all this, the links to all these tools are below. And most importantly, you can learn to install and use them as a beginner in the AI Captain School. There's also a link below for that. So what is this? This is the template for an agentic harness. This is not for coding. This is for creating a screenplay. So this is an 11-person team of agents that do different things. So we have a story architect that makes sure the story structure works, the dialogue writer, scene writer, continuity editor, etc. So what I found really interesting here is that we can use this template and this harness for something beyond just screenwriting. So it's showing us here how the story architect could also be a system architect in the software development context. We could have a senior partner in a legal context, medical research, principal investigator, right? So we can use this for different things. This architecture is universal, and I think that's what makes this so powerful. This is infinitely extensible. There are other harnesses and other plugins, spokes, that are out there. This is like an open source community project. Pretty neat. This will work with more than just Claude Code. I'm going to be using Claude Code, but you could use Gemini CLI or OpenAI Codex. If we use Better Fountain, it will transform our workflow for formatted screenplay in real time as agent writes. So I'm going to download that, Better Fountain. It looks like I can just click that to install it. So we've got Better Fountain installed. So now I'm going to head over to this quick start guide. There is a way to use this with other agents, but for now we're going to stick to screenwriting. So this is going to be an 11 agent team. Session manager coordinates the story analyst and story architect independently from the writers and scene annotator, independently from quality and continuity. And then I think after these two get done, we move into the quality and continuity, and then that pushes to research and production. Star has veto gate authority. So it looks like the story architect here and the script supervisor, if they don't approve of the quality, they're going to veto it and it's not going to move forward. So now let's go up to the essentials installation guide. I'm going to copy all that and paste it into a terminal. So now I've got VS Code open. I'm going to open up a terminal here. I think I got terminal over there. There's my terminal. I'm going to go to the directory I want to be in. I'm going to paste all of that. All right. And then it opens up Claude. At the end, it opens up Claude after everything's installed. So now I'm going to need to open that repo that we just duplicated, which is right here. Cool. And it looks like I'm going to have to open the terminal again. So I'll run Claude. We've got that installed. And it looks like start scene is our first command. Now, are there other commands to run? There we go. Commands on the reference page. Start scene, start project, end session, check format, check continuity. New scene, new character. But from what I gather, a lot of this should be automatic. All right. Start. Oh, look. We can even see when we start the command, we can see what's available here. So let's do story, start scene. Or like what happens in this. I think I was supposed to type in what happens in the scene here, but all right. What is the scene about? What happens? What changes by the end of it? Let's do the title page and get the idea of the screenplay down first. This is a reminder I haven't used this. Okay. So we're going through this. We're learning. Title of my screenplay. I have a working title. Jordan Herbs is the author. It's an original screenplay. All right. So I'm just going to give it a basic idea here. Captain Jax is founder of the AI Captains Academy in a 16-bit retro synthwave world full of 80s looking technology that acts like 2020 tech, AI, etc. But he wasn't always an AI captain. His genesis story is he used to be a soldier in the corporate surveillance subscription AI army until one day he realized that everything he was assigned to do was to help expand an empire he didn't agree with. I actually have a Genesis story. Basically, he was helping this army, and then he found this piece of magical technology that gave him an AI assistant, basically. This guy. And then along the way, he learned that it was all bullshit, so he started the AI Captain's Academy, and then he had to fight the final boss.
Combo. Special move.
Your mandatory subscription to reality begins now.
Pay attention, recruits. To control the future, we must first control the code.
What's the working title? Let's call it Captain Jax. Any contact info? No, skip for now. Okay. Now, I'm assuming in this agent harness that it will help write this story out, because I don't know the scenes. I'm not a script writer anymore. I was when I was a kid. I tried to get into Hollywood and all that. Didn't work out, so here I am on YouTube writing screenplays with AI. All right, so it's got a summary with the title page. When you're ready to start writing, just say the word. Let's flesh out more. Now, while this happens, let's take a look under the hood. In the Claude folder, look at all the agents it's got. Maybe right now I'm talking to the script supervisor or the story architect, maybe. I don't even know which agent I'm talking to, but it's helping me build. So where do you want to start fleshing things out? World building and story structure. I mean, I think we already have the story structure. Yeah, I think for now it's pretty clear. I even want to let AI improvise, like the other characters and his allies and all that stuff. I think we got the main story. I haven't thought much deeper than that, but I do want to figure out the world. I'm really into world building, and that is something I want to be the human in the loop on. Hit me with whatever you've got, even fragments and vibes. Okay, I'll hit you, Claude Code. I'll hit you. Let's nail down this universe. Okay, so I'm hitting it with fragments and vibes. I gotta say, I haven't done a lot of storytelling in recent years, trying to be an entrepreneur and everything, but this is fun. World Bible. Now we have some vocabulary. The Pocket Mind, the Walkman equivalent AI device. CIT Compliance Division, the Army Jack served in. This is amazing. Neuroboard, boombox style, local inference servers, no internet required. All right, so I'm going to keep going into getting all these preliminary questions answered, and then we'll continue with looking at what the harness actually does. Okay, so we made what it's calling the beat sheet and the character registry. And before we move on, I just kind of want to look into that. I have no idea where it is. It literally crafted just like the templates. It's in templates. Okay, cool. So now here in templates, we have the beat sheet, which is, wow, Act 1, theme, setup, catalyst. Oh my gosh. Character registry. So I'm just wondering what Ben Affleck would think of this. That's really all I can think of. And then the other thing I wanted to look at is we looked at the sub-agents in here already. So we see the sub-agents it has to work with. Let's look at the skills. Look at how many skills are in here. Action description. This skill provides screenplay action and description writing techniques, covers present tense formatting, visual storytelling, action things, and paragraph structure for scene descriptions. Used when writing scene descriptions, crafting action scenes. Oh my goodness. And it's totally got formatting for writing the screenplays. Needs to be present tense. Certain things need to be capitalized. Okay, so this is how to write action scenes. Character arcs. Character arc development frameworks and techniques. So I wonder if it already used this before. I don't know. Maybe we can check real quick. If we say character arcs Captain Jax. Let's just see what happens when I say that. Let me build out the full character arc document for Captain Jax, pulling from everything we've established. Okay, so I think we had already worked on that character arc, but it was part of the beat sheet. It was part of our character registry. This beat sheet is the movie. This is the whole story. The bad guys close in. So now I invoked this skill, the character arc skill, to just make sure we really hone in on this protagonist's character arc. If you're a creative person, I imagine your head is reeling already with the possibilities here. Even if you're not a screenwriter, this is fun, right? Okay, so our arc chart skill was invoked, and I wonder if this is in templates. Yep, arc chart. Lie believed, order is safety, a controlled system protects people, obedience is loyalty, truth to learn, freedom is messy, unstable, and ungovernable. This gives you a real respect for movies, right? And all that goes into telling a good story. All right, so we have our character arc. Should we try one more skill here? Story check. Let's just double check the story here. I should have looked at what this one does. 12 critical story questions for screenplay evaluation. Covers concept, theme. All right. I also want to note that I have no idea where we are with context. I'm assuming it'll tell me soon if we're out of tokens, but the whole point of the harness is to be able to be persistent in a big project. So with all these skills, subagents, and things like the beat sheet, character registry, the arc chart, that all becomes context for persistent memory, in my understanding of how this works. Story check is complete. Strong blueprint. 10 of 12 questions passed. What is Axiom's origin? Oh, I think that's like pre-dystopian times. Ancient relic of a past civilization. Yes. How do unsubscribers survive without CIT services? So the CIT is corporate intelligence technology, and that's like the company. And then Nexus 7 is its AI that everyone is forced to use. So that's like the bad guy, the nemesis. Okay, while that goes now, let's look at Claude MD, which has got to be here somewhere. Whoa. Claude MD, this is going to be fun. Okay, I was saving this for last. Harness location. So we already saw the agents. Command, skills, hooks, agent invocation, acting as the story architect, evaluate the 3-act structure, blah, 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 acting as the dialogue writer, quick reference. Okay, a capability schema, that's cool. Templates, workflow, start scene, complete session. Oh, looks like it'll automatically commit the progress. Okay, so it worked on all that. Okay, we have the story and character arc. What's next? Outline of scenes? Start writing? Yeah, I want to do the scene outline. I also want to add an aspect of this that will then generate prompts, video generation prompts for each scene, each shot of each scene. This would be a very ambitious project, but I think it can be done. So while that's going, let's go back into our .claude folder. Commands. Add a fountain note, add transition. Wow. So this must be really great for actual screenwriters. And I imagine depending on what your use case would be for your vocation or profession, it's going to be a lot of work to put together this harness. But imagine the output you'll be able to accomplish once it's put together. That's insane. Cool. Scene outline. Scene 1. 46 scenes, 108 pages. Yeah, let's start writing. And now I just kind of want to keep it on. And I'm going to go to the beach. And when I get back from the beach, I'm guessing I'm going to have a screenplay waiting for me? That's nuts. Okay, back from the beach, showered. And it's done. And that took 14 minutes to finish it. And I probably spent half hour. My point is, it took about an hour all in all to, I guess, write a whole screenplay that we have now. And that screenplay is right here, CaptainJax.Fountain. And it's in the proper, well, I don't know what software to open this in, but this is the proper formatting for screenplays. So we have a 108-page screenplay here. We more or less figured out all the important stuff before it wrote it. But that said, if we remember in the beginning, you know, the beats, the character arcs, everything. So I think it was okay. But here's what I'm going to do now. We just wrote the entire screenplay, but you are supposed to be an 11 agent team. So did we write in the wrong way, or should you proofread it as a team now, or what? All right, so now let's see. We did nothing wrong. We wrote the first draft. It's the right workflow. You know, this is fine. Oh, okay. So now we're at the right place. The team breaks down for where you are now. The story architect is going to validate the structure of the story. The story analyst, scene by scene quality analysis. So this is the harness with a 2,888 line screenplay. The 11 agent team. We ran story check already, so why don't we go writer's room? Let's see what the writer's room skill looks like. So now it's convening 6 agents in parallel for the writer's room. So this is pretty cool. I haven't seen a harness in action before. I've had agents work in parallel before, but now we see it launched the 6 plan agents for different reviews, and they're all running in the background now. Look, 6 local agents. And now we can see what it's doing and its prompt. Scene writer, reviewer. Wow. So the story architect is finished. And I'm just getting updates from the Claude Code main agent. Pretty neat, huh? Okay, so it's done. The writer's room creative direction. It took about 10 minutes, if that. The 3-act balance is near ideal. The structure is strong. Great. Best structural moments. Great. I haven't read this yet. Structural fixes needed. The archivist, scene 33, is a structural orphan. Add a distribution preparation beat. So, why this is important, no matter what you're doing with AI, AI cannot write an entire screenplay, develop a whole world, character arcs, all in like a single conversation and do a good job. It just can't do it. This is what Ben Affleck meant. You can't do it. But if you have a harness and you have these context engineering techniques, which basically give you what they call persistent memory here, and you have the sub-agents with their skills and hooks to know what they're doing and when, this is the AI they've been talking about. This is the agentic AI we have been going for. So we got the structural fixes that need to work. So my point in saying that is that yes, it did all the things right, but it still misses some things. It just wrote a 2,888 line screenplay. So it missed a few things to make it really good, which is why we have the writer's room agents now come in to fix it all up. And by the way, here on the agents reference page, now we see, I think it was this 6 that just went through it. And they worked in parallel, right? All right, so then the story analyst. The story is really about the difference between conviction and wisdom. Jax begins with conviction, swaps conviction, and finally earns wisdom. Character grades. Jax is 9 out of 10. Double confrontation of his flaw is what makes the arc earned. Okay. Lines that fall flat. Intelligence should be owned, not rented. Bumper sticker. Be the change. The script calls itself out, but still says it. Visual fixes needed. Compression opportunities. We can merge these scenes. Wow, that's cool. Okay, so it's got all these findings. And it's got a synthesized creative direction report here at the end. The consensus. All 6 agents agree. Scene 43 needs a rewrite. The archivist character delivery is the weakest link. Act 3 lacks physical stakes and okay. So Ben Affleck, this AI wrote the whole script, and then another AI inside the same AI is saying, this is what's not good enough. This is what you need to do to fix it. And hey, imagine that. If you're actually a scriptwriter, or even if you're actually Ben Affleck, and you're putting your whole life into writing this script, which is what writers do, imagine how convenient this would be to have with something you wrote yourself, or at least wrote scene by scene with the AI. To have this team just to go review it from the point of view of storytelling, character arcs, plot beats, etc. So to wrap up this part of the video, let's export my script to PDF. Save my screenplay as PDF. Oh look, it's a skill. Okay. So, oh my gosh. Fluorescent tubes flicker overhead, casting everything in a pale green wash. I don't know how I feel about the story, because it sounds like it took the theme in a direction that I'm not sure I really agree with. But that's okay, because I'm not actually trying to make a movie. I'm trying to make AI tutorial videos. So we're going to keep this. We now can feed this screenplay into the same harness, but put new templates into the harness to take each scene and create video generation prompts in a style that I have to explain using the, Veo 3.1, and basically make an index so this whole movie can be generated with AI. Okay, so that was part one. Pretty neat, right? It's always fun to have your own screenplay written, I've always said. Next up, we're going to go under the hood, and Scott's going to join us for real now, talking about the technological side of all of this and how it works. This might not be for all viewers, but if you are interested in the technology aspect of all of this, it is very detailed, very informative, very educational, and enlightening. So Scott's going to run us through the technology, and then after that, we're going to build our custom harness for turning this screenplay into an AI-generated movie.
Machines are for speed, repetition, and necessity. Humans are for story, novelty, myth, and meaning.
This workshop took place in the AI Captain's School. Scott Graham joined me to just blow my mind in explaining what this stuff is and why we need it.
We all heard in 2025 about agentic or agents. I mean, that's definitely here now. Some of the missing pieces are really being put into place. Certainly, the harness that we're covering today is going to cover some of the technologies that have been released that are filling in some of the gaps that, at least from an enterprise point of view, we want to see certain kinds of outputs. There's no room for error, especially when we're used to doing things and checking that work and making sure that it's correct. It's called evidence-based delivery. The uniqueness of the technology really comes down to a couple key things, and it's really about how the layers work. We're going to be picking apart how these layers work together, and then I'll be showing you a repo that has all of this built into it so you can see a working example. So how many people are using Claude Code right now? How many people have a harness? Any experience with this?
I would say most people in this community do not even know what a harness is, myself included, but we're all probably using Claude Code for sure. Claude Code and or Agent Zero.
Good. Okay. Claude Code is the specific technology we're talking about lives in Claude Code. Okay, you can take the harness and you can adapt it to work with other technologies like Agent Zero. Agent Zero in itself is a harness. I don't want to get people confused, but Agent Zero is a harness. What a harness means is somewhere that inside of that your AI can live and it can get work done by understanding the skills, commands, hooks, and agents available to it to autonomously conduct and finish work. Does that make sense?
Yes. So are skills like Claude skills, is that part of a harness? Is it a requirement to have a harness?
Part. Yes, a key part. Skills and commands really kind of live synonymously now, but what they do is slightly different. Think of it this way. Going back to the example of cutting down a tree. So in the book, it would say maybe, take the axe out of the safety sheath and put on your glasses and put on your hard hat and put on your gloves and get a certain distance from the thing you're chopping, and you want to do a certain motion and all these kinds of things. And that's your LLM. He's just reading this stuff and like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, fine, I'll go chop down a tree. That's not how you actually do it, right? Once you learn a skill, you just put on your stuff and walk up and just start chopping it. That's what a skill is. It's translating what's in your knowledge base into what the agents understand at the time they need it. That is a skill. So agents work by like finding files, running builds, debugging, grepping, running bash commands, linting, right? Everyone knows all this stuff is doing all this kinds of things. But then when you start giving it skills around the particular domain that you're working on, then it adapts patterns according to how you want it to work. So in other words, We'll use Jordan. He's great at marketing, right? He's great at marketing plans. So, here's an example of a marketing plan. Maybe it's in an SOP. I don't know how you do it. Actually, let's do this. Let's use this as an example. Right now in Agent Zero or wherever you do it, when you want to work on a marketing plan, kind of what's your workflow?
So I'll use Claude Code inside of VS Code, and inside of that project directory, I'll have essentially a knowledge base for whatever that project is, and most of my stuff has to do with marketing, right? So I have like 2 key files that explain, like one of them is a content creation reference markdown file, and in that file it has all the basics of who I am making content for, who I'm selling to, what the offer is, the mission and values of what I do, and it essentially takes that. And then depending on what my prompt was, like let's write an email nurturing sequence for this, or let's write a YouTube treatment outline for this concept, then it will use that as context and it will, do what I say in the prompt. Now, lately I've been getting more and more into understanding the importance of Claude skills. So I am working to turn the usual repetitive tasks into skills. It's interesting with all of this, before you're ready for something like Claude skills, it's like you don't realize why it's important. And for months, I've been just playing with the knowledge base because I'm realizing how important it is to have a knowledge base. And now I'm finally realizing, okay, when I have like my full knowledge base of like 20 files, then obviously context rot creeps in very quickly. And even with my 1 or 2 files for marketing stuff, context rot creeps in. So now I have a better understanding that, okay, I need to kind of segment these different workflows into skills so I don't suffer from context rot or context bloat.
Exactly. You've got the idea nailed on the head. Okay, that's exactly right. And there's another part of that is the repetitiveness of going through that workflow. It should just be something you can do at any time in the work area you want. Now, the thing about skills, and because you're only calling it at the time you need it, it's because the technology of how they have the YAML front matter, and if you don't know what that means, it's okay, we're going to show you examples. It's just keywords of different things that skill can accomplish, and then the description of it, so that the agent only loads up those kinds of items about skills rather than all of that knowledge base that you just described. So then it's just sitting there ready to go. Now an agent can just on its own grab that kind of stuff, a sub-agent, or it can be built into a command where it's, explicit. And then commands can essentially become workflows. Right here is what a harness does, is that this agent loop and feedback mechanism comes into play, where not only are we just pulling up the tools and the skills we need at the time we need it, but then we're layering in requirements according to the documents that you're using, Jordan, that say that the definition of done of what a project looks like when it's finished according to my standards is this. Right?
Hey, real quick, if you want to be part of a community that's not just AI, things on screen, code, but actually real humans and real calls and hanging out and talking about AI and have people with you on this journey, check out the AI Captain School. There's a link below. There's educational materials. There's workshops like this. There's people like me. And we love talking about all this. So if you're searching for a community to have some extra humanness in your life of AI, like my life is just like all AI on screen. So it's nice to have these calls every week. We meet up, we talk, we co-work, we have workshops, and it's just a cool environment. And maybe you're interested. So you can check the link down below and maybe I'll see you there. All right, let's keep going. Yeah, and normally it's me going through to fix it, and then I'll try to tell it after, like, hey, update the way you do this so we don't make this mistake again.
Right. Okay, so that's the annoying part, right? That should not happen. And by formulating your loops correctly, What the harness does is now allows you to implement standards and hooks and commands that make those agents or make those, and the agent can be just the one you're chatting with. Think of it as your first agent or the orchestrator. But then you have sub-agents too. All of them must meet a standard of delivery. Now you can start baking those standards into the cake via commands and hooks and your agent skills, because in the skills it will say, hey, before you get done, you have to run this pre-commit hook that goes through our validation of all of our standards. Because the bottom line is really key. The agents can check and improve their own output. See, when you're having to check, I mean, you're going to still have to check things for a while on certain kinds of things. And certainly I want to distinguish between agentic output and that being kind of what a machine does, okay? Because machines, this is a quote for me, all right? Machines are for speed, repetition, and necessity. Humans are for story, novelty, myth, and meaning. What that means is that your taste is hard to translate, but the work product can be organized to your standards such that if you are the editor of the work and you want final cut, at least you want the little nuances of the standards that you need done to be handled so that you're eliminating all of those, I call them time sinks, right? And they're just the same kind of way you did automation prior to AI is the same thing. Like, okay, well, I've got a kind of issue here. I want to get rid of it. It's been a real problem up until now. And I don't need to belabor the point. What this kind of harness situation does is it removes those kinds of issues because the agent is told, you not only have to go do the work, here's the folder that we're working from, you know what to do. Like, I need a workup of whatever the commands are we've created. Like, you might have a specific kind of work you're trying to deliver, right? I need a marketing report for this, for TV or whatever it is. I don't know what it is. I'm just making shit up. And then it's just going to say, okay, what does that mean? Well, that's baked into the cake, and it's able to gather context around the subject matter that you've handed it, understand its framework of how we operate. It has the skills as if you taught an intern, maybe let's say a graduate student, a really, really excited and smart one. You got them down to standard operating procedures and the skill set needed to reproduce the type of work you do. And then over time, you keep working on your harness until it meets the standards you have, which luckily for us, we just use AI to say, okay, in that last run, I didn't like what I saw, I want to fix it. And that's where this last part, LLM as judge, a subject agent that's critiquing that kind of thing, is kind of a key. It's an exit. Did we hit the standard? If not, then we need to iterate again. Did we hit the standard? No. Then we need to iterate again. Did we hit the standard? No. Hey, Jordan, we've been doing this for 4 hours and these guys can't get it right. I'm sending it to you. This is our problem. You don't want an infinite loop, all right? But if it's a big enough problem, it might need that much time to kind of come to get done with the whole workload. And then once it's done with that, it still needs to go to a QAS process. And that's how these agentic loops and these harnesses are built. You do not need to do one as sophisticated as, all that. It could be really simple. Okay, it could just be a couple of different things. It just, match what you need to what you need. That's it. Take from this and then just add, put it to what you need. And going back to the problems, this is what you're overcoming, is exactly like we said. That's what context rot looks like in a graph.
So 2% misalignment early on leads to a 40% failure rate by the end of a conversation or by the end of like a task?
It's in a multi-turn conversation. So as we go through, think of between compactions. as we go through compactions, and then we only have compaction technology that just came in recently, and that's why it's in this bottom right-hand corner, because the problem has been this on the left-hand side. As you go round by round, when you really look under the hood, it's taking the whole previous one and sending it back too. So it's not like it completely remembered the other thing. So if you look at how some of those are doing, it's stacking up and stacking up. That's the real big problem, because you're really kind of repeating back what it's already been said. So it's huge amounts of input tokens to get a small amount of output tokens. So, there's been these solutions coming out, just in time, which is let's only search for certain things. Let's use the tools of code to search for things. And whether it's software or other subject matters, which I'm going to be talking about script writing today in the example, or whatever you're doing, marketing, those tools of grep and head and search and session ID, session searches, through Claude or history and commits and GitHub, all of that is a history and a knowledge base that can be leveraged by your agents that is overlooked by a lot of people. So we're just trying to lower our token usage and maximize our knowledge base that our agent can act on.
I like that rule down at the bottom. I feel like that's a really crucial point. Find the smallest set of high signal tokens to maximize outcome likelihood. And that is like context engineering in its purest form.
And really, this is all coming out of that, when we say context engineering, now, we need to take the idea of all of that and place it inside of harnesses that help us to express that as a skill, command, a hook, or an agent, rather than as a knowledge base. Okay, so the thing is about this is that the Claude MD file is the file that you would share or keep in your repository as the source of truth for everyone in your team or anyone you're working with on any given project. Now, that being said, if you're enterprise, you may have enterprise kind of like compliance or security or gosh knows, there's all kinds of rules, SOC 2, HIPAA, PII, all kinds of rules that you might have, and other things that are global, and then other things that are project level. Remember, you can utilize all these different policies that are built in as a kind of a scaffolding, so that you don't have to always think about this stuff. Just build it into your policies, and that way when you build a new project, it's just always going to be built exactly the same way that you want, and then work on that part of your framework as much as anything else, so that you get that really duplication that you're looking for. And it's really like, I know my base duplication is this, and then from that, this is what I'm going to do to convert my skills and everything into what I'm doing for this kind of work. The new thing you really have to hone in on is, how do I take this, use the harness I have, computer, take this, take that, put them together, what does that look like? Work through the plan until you're like, okay, and then let it rip, and then test it. And it's as easy as that, because these models have now gone to that level that you can do that. The best thing to do is just start really, really light. Don't do anything crazy. Take something that you're working on all the time and convert it into a skill, okay? So Claude only loads that skill name and description when it loads up. I mean, literally when you exit out and you come back into the terminal, that's when those skills load. If you hit /skills, you'll see a list of all the skills that are there, and it'll show how many tokens that it's taking. And the reason it does that is because you could put 100 skills in there.
Unlike when you put 100 MCPs and it just bloats up your whole context window.
Bingo. I mean, if it has an API key that has to be there, if there's security, then that needs to be in the secrets. But as long as that's there, it can just write tools on the fly to connect, instead of having to load up the entire MCP thing, and that's the big part of the new stuff that's out as well. So anyway, moving on, this IDE that you're working from, for a long time, there's been something called IntelliSense inside of there, and that just means that, like, whether it's C or C+, or, PHP or Python or whatever the case may be, there's a language server protocol or an LSP that was built into that just allows, like, pre-AI, that's how programmers were able to skip through the code base and find functions and all of these kinds of things. It's literally built into the IDE as it's part of the fabric of what it is. With the new addition of LSP support in Claude Code, that means all of that semantic code intelligence is now available to Claude Code. It basically speeds up everything by a bazillion because it's actually using the same tools that a human uses to speed through the database. And that's what I'm just showing you here is that, we can look for definitions, we can look for references to any kind of function or anything, but it's a really, really big deal. Because what it does is it reduces the cognitive load of your agent. All the things we're talking about are about cognitive load for the agent. I like to call it process as a service. So these are processes that we're delivering to the agent as a service at the time they need it. So it's just-in-time process service delivery. And then now we're able to leverage these other tools so that now our greps or our rip greps or our searches or search for a function or a definition throughout the code base speeds up a lot, reduces our token usage because we're leveraging the IDE tools. Anytime you can leverage anything from the CLI, you want to be doing that versus an MCP. Do not run GitHub MCP. If you're doing that, you're just killing yourself. Get GitHub CLI running. Your agent knows how to do those things. Really, this is what we're talking about, is that when we go and start using tool search instead of just that traditional loading, it's such a big difference in your performance that not only are your results better, but the amount of work that your agent can do before compaction is greatly increased. It really looks kind of like this, like, the old way is like we have a chat, we have a call, and and there's this whole context latency pollution thing where now we're using our abilities to leverage tool calling, program writing, code writing, and IDE built-in tools to make things, your latency is a big thing, but end results are better, and that's what we're really after, right? No one wants to buy a drill. They just want holes, right? Yeah, I just need a hole, man. I need this big. Like, give me the thing that does that. And that's what we're talking about. And when I mean that I'm not worried about my computer having failures is I have defense in depth, and these kinds of harnesses allow you to do that. So that not only do we have this behavioral layer, but our hooks and our tool use calls can be limited to different agents doing different things. For example, my QAS agent in my software programming harness does not have the ability to code. They can only search and look and write reports. It doesn't even have the right tools to do that. So, you can limit agents and tools and create pre and post tool use hooks or commands that check the work in such a way that you're making sure that some kind of a blocking operation does not happen. And it could just, when I say blocking operation, it could just be a standard you have. It could just be like strictly a standard. No, we have a publishing standard that, it has to be in this format. And then, it goes through the hook and it's like, whoops, well, there's a problem. Well, it go back and fix it. Okay, now it goes through the hook. And okay, now it passes. So when you work in a group of people and you're in a factory and you're building a car, at the beginning, it's just like a shell of a car, but at the end, it looks like everything, like you're polishing. Does someone go and inspect the car to make sure it works? Yeah, they probably do. So that's all we're talking about, is just every step of the way, that car is being inspected by a quality assurance person to make sure that the bumper was put on right, that the tire was done correctly, that the paint is the right, that's just think of your agents as those persons in that really sophisticated line that's building a complex device. It's just like that. You can put it in your head and think like, well, yeah, they all have roles. If I were to bring them out in real life and we were to sit down at a table and I would say, well, John's going to do this and Susie's going to do this and Jack's going to do this, and then we're going to put it over here and then we're going to collate it, and then the end result's going to be that. Don't forget, Peter from compliance has to check off on it, and then it has to go to the VP. He has to sign it, and then our final exec has to sign it, and then it goes out. If that's the process, then you just want to take that and stick it into this kind of a harness and make sure each of those checks are along the way. And that's what we're seeing here is this agentic loop. It's saying coding agent, but it could be any kind of an agent where we're going to read, we're going to work, we're going to commit, but we have this exit state that says, have we completed the work to the standards that we have? That's what this stuff is. So this execution just keeps looping, and we didn't get it right that time. Maybe I need to hand it off to another expert. Well, I can hand off all of that plus all my artifacts into another agent to carry on the work, but they get their own context window. That's another key part of the technology that's changed here. And at the end, what this allows is for these long-running kind of operations, it might take days to kind of go through and do all the work, but your agents, because they're able to keep track of that work and hand off the context, they're able to continue to work and continue to get the job done according to the standards. Now, that being said, if you don't have a plan and they don't know what they're working towards, or the plan is very short, you can't expect some long-running plan. But, there's a lot of different domains that you may have some deep research, or I don't know, maybe you're a scientist. I'm not sure. Maybe you're in agriculture and you're doing some kind of deep understanding of soil samples. I don't know, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, I kind of like this one because everyone likes that vibe coding kind of thing, and that's all fine and good. But one thing I noticed as soon as that got going is that vibe coding's fine, but you have to put certain kinds of guardrails into place to make sure that you're getting the results that you want and hitting standards that you want. And if you are a vibe coder, these kinds of harnesses can allow you to do that, because 40% of the cognitive load of the agents when it comes to authentication or authorizations or access to MCPs or different, integrated services are kind of built into the harness, so that it's only your agents are only going to kind of vibe code within the standards that you've set for a project. Because, just getting something to work on your computer locally is, if that's all you're working on, it's not as big a deal how it works or what the issues are with it compared to if you're trying to deliver a product to any customer that you're taking money from. Because the moment you start taking money and delivering code, then you better have standards that don't get them in trouble, like security and authorization and authentication and these things that if you don't really know about them, there's standards in place out there that you can just bring into your projects, set them as the standards, and then stick to the standards. But at the end of the day, whatever your workflow is, and everyone's used to seeing these kinds of modular node kind of things, if you just have your innate N, let's say, and you understand that whole process, you can just take that out, take a harness like the one I'm sharing with, it's open to the world, as a template, and say, here's my NAN harness, here's an agentic harness that's doing this kind of work. I want to convert the harness to do what my NAN does, and let it always do this in plan mode, please. It really is worth it. And let it rip through this and churn through it and make sure that at every point it's correct. and you will be able to just lift that out. And the power that's going to come from taking that in workflow out and putting it into the agentic harness is that in NAN, you have to go in and change that if you want to change. When the harness is within your project and within your repo, within your workspace, and you want to do a change, you just say, let's change it like right now. So at the end of the day, you end up with a real full stack. I'm very appreciative of things like N8N because for people that are no coders, it's very helpful to be able to do that. I love Zapier. I used it for many years, and N8N and stuff's fine, but as a person that uses code, and I'm not a coder per se, but I'm AI assisted now, but right up my whole life, you can do a lot more when you're utilizing the tools that have been built over the last 30, 40 years of being able to build these tools on the fly is not like a dream anymore. It's reality. And this is from actually using it every day to build projects that we deliver to clients. But at the bottom, I think it's a nice touch there. The most effective agents aren't just smart. They're well equipped, they're well governed, and they're context aware. And I want to kind of put a circle around that context aware part. They're context aware of the job they need to do at the moment. And I think that's the ... on that. The ellipsis is that because when you're doing single agent work and a single chat and this kind of thing, it's trying to be all things to you. And it's really, really hard. If you look at real life and how you break things up into a team and you kind of replicate that into this harness, if you think of it more as your team, then that's exactly what you end up with. And the results are really uncanny. People who aren't like talented necessarily, they just want to kind of see where it goes, can have access. But think about any kind of domain, like legal, for example. If you can get a really good legal harness that is around the area you work in your business, how much money can you save by running contracts through there first draft to find initial things? Maybe you still need to send it out to the lawyer. Maybe not, though. I mean, I've been working with contracts for years. If you kind of understand your legal positions on things and have boilerplate to work with, I think that with the right standards in place, your service providers should start helping you teach your agents how to have the right skills to do the job that you need done. So like maybe in the past where your accountant might come in and help you set up your QuickBooks, I could imagine your accountant coming in and not only setting up your QuickBooks, but kind of giving you a set of instructions of skills and commands and things that your agents need to have to do your books. I mean, I think that the delivery system of intelligence is what we're talking about. So it's the harness is only a way of describing it so that we can understand it. But what we're talking about is taking intelligence and putting it into bite-sized pieces that we can send to agents to be able to understand. It's a whole new way of looking at things. Wow. It's also a whole new way of delivering services. Because with this right here, this the way it sits, when you install this core, you can go to the plugin marketplace. You can install any plugin out there and add it to this. So if you find a plugin from some other developer out there I'm talking about the Claude Code plugin marketplace, right? You can add plugins into this system to do other things and enhance your original core bit with all this other open source stuff, and paid services are coming this way too. So it's really a really neat way. I mean, the way of thinking about software is going to change because your system can write software on the fly. So it's more like, here's the conditions of work, go do the work. And here's the conditions of success, don't come back until you meet the conditions of success. And that's really kind of how you do work in the real world. And then when somebody has a problem, you don't necessarily fire them. You do a retrospective. Okay, let's improve the process so that next time those issues don't happen. And just that retrospective and going back and fixing your process over time, you dial it in to where your company or your work or whatever you're doing, you have a standard. Now that standard changes over time, but today you have a standard, and the standard of work has to be met. And before, the agents couldn't really do that. Now they can.
Okay, so we used the harness to make a screenplay. Then we learned a bit about what this technology is behind the harness. Now I'm going to take this original template, the Safe Agentic Workflow from Scott Graham. Thank you, Scott. And I'm going to make a harness that will take the screenplay and turn it into video generation prompts so I can potentially turn this whole thing into a movie. Now, I'm not sure I have enough API credits and money to generate every single video for this whole movie, but I would like to start with at least a scene to get the full storyboard of all the shots so I can see it and like approve, and then later would be like, okay, let's make it a video. But for now, we're going to feed it the whole screenplay and use the same pipeline with, I guess, 11 agents to make sure it's going to be a good storyboard. And potentially, this could even be added to the story systems template for creators like myself. So the first thing we're going to need to do is just go over here to the code and copy the GitHub repo. Have a brand new workspace open. I'm calling it Longform AI VidGen. I'm going to open up Claude Code. I'm going to go into plan mode. Say you are a full stack AI developer. We want to use this repo to create a harness that can... Okay, my prompt here is going to say you are a full stack AI developer. We want to use this repo, this Safe Agentic Workflow Git, to create a harness that can take a full-length screenplay and create a full storyboard from it. All image generation should use the Venice API using Nano Banana Pro at 1K resolution. There should be complete character consistency throughout the storyboard. All characters in each and every prompt must be thoroughly described to a point. Yada, yada, yada. So I am explaining every little thing that I know needs to go into this harness for it to be a good storyboard. And it's going to take a look at the code and figure out the best way to take that repo and create the harness that I'm after. And we're in plan mode here, so we're going to be able to talk about it first before we begin. So this is about done. I've set the Venice API key, fully implemented and ready for use. HTML render agent completed. All 5 background agents have now finished. One final verification to confirm everything is still clean. Okay. All right, so I'm going to bring the .fountain file from my original screenplay. Here it is. And this is like the markdown version of a screenplay. And where do I put that? In screenplays. Okay. And now let's just see if this works properly as a harness. So I'll say, let's start. You know what? I don't even see a Claude MD. We need a Claude MD to make sure every conversation in this workspace knows what this harness is about. The user does not want to run npx commands, but do everything with natural language with you in this workspace. All right, here we go. This workspace converts full-length screenplays into visual storyboards using Venice AI image generation. The user interacts entirely through natural language conversation. Never ask them to run commands manually. Boom. What this project does, ingests, locks characters by generating 4 reference images, 4 angles each. Oh, that's cool. Sets an aesthetic, visual style, palette, lighting, film stock for the whole storyboard, generates storyboard panels. Outputs an interactive, self-contained HTML storyboard viewer. How to operate. You execute everything on behalf of the user. All right, cool. So now, let's see. Ingest the Captain Jack screenplay. I'm going to give it nothing else. Just the command. 71 scenes, 24 characters. The project is saved there. Okay. Aesthetic. Let's talk options. I've got my ideas, but I want to know what it thinks. It will have ideas. I'm starting to wonder if I could use Claude Code to just generate music. Like, I've been using 11 Labs. Have you ever used the music generator on there? Okay, based on the screenplay, a sci-fi story, here are some aesthetic directions. Blade Runner, neo-noir. Yeah, clean dystopia, Apple meets Orwell. Oh, I kind of like that idea too. Retrofuturism, Moebius, I don't know what that is. Heavy metal. European comic book aesthetic. That could be interesting. Gritty anime realism. Ghost in the Shell meets Akira. Washed out analog sci-fi. Wow, I kind of want to see all of these. I want to see samples of all of these, but also a 16 to 32-bit Super Nintendo world. Man, just seeing those ideas, it gets me kind of excited, right? Like, wow, that could be fun. I didn't even imagine it like this Apple meets Orwell aesthetic. All right, generate the 6 test images in parallel, 1 for each aesthetic. Using the same scene, Jack's in the city hallway from scene 1. All right, we're going to see these aesthetics. I wonder if that should be part of the harness, is showing samples of possible aesthetics for the user to choose from. Because ultimately, I have the idea in my head, but that's just one idea. And the whole purpose of creative collaboration is to bring multiple ideas into a space and see what's synthesized from everything. So we want to add this process to the harness, generate samples of all aesthetic ideas and present them to the user directly after ingestion. No user interaction required. So I'll send that off when this is done. Okay, we've got the images generated. Fix our skills and Claude MD. I don't want the user to need to discuss aesthetic before the harness generates options to compare, just like this. Also, make sure what you learned about image generation with Venice and Nano Banana Pro is documented. So this is just to make sure that that whole thing doesn't happen again with the image generation problem. Okay, so let's open up. Cool, baby. Oh, Blade Runner, neo-noir, clean dystopia, retrofuturism, Moebius, gritty anime realism, analog sci-fi 70s. That's dope. I think I like this. SNEX pixel dystopia. I don't know if I would do a whole movie with that. Captain Jack's Compliance Squad. All right, I like analog sci-fi 70s. Yeah, and it matches the whole theme of the movie anyway. Okay, so we're going to go with analog sci-fi 70s. For Captain Jack's, let's go with analog sci-fi 70s aesthetic. All right, we've got our aesthetic locked in. Yes, let's lock the characters. So as you can see, it's just walking me through step by step what we need to do for the goals that I originally gave it, which is create a storyboard for the screenplay. So it's pretty similar to the screenplay situation, right? How we wrote the screenplay, just now it's getting more visual about it. We already have the story. It's going to be fun. So it's fixing a bunch of code. And I'm glad earlier I said, hey, solve these problems so they don't happen again, because now that's kind of locked into its behavior as it goes. Like, oh, hey, we got to fix this. Okay, so this is cool. All right, here's the cadet rune. In the little world, we got the angles. Uh-oh, that doesn't really match there. That doesn't match either. So there's work to do. Captain Jax, our main character. Byte, the resistance leader. Axiom, which is the ancient, like, free AI. The archivist. The bad guy, Voss. Another bad guy, Vale. I love it, huh? So it's creating these character files that I'll use as references later. And it's taking this all from the aesthetic we chose, the analog sci-fi 70s stuff. And yeah, this is going to be, we're creating a world here. We're creating a world here. Okay, boom. So we have all of our characters all laid out. We got our technology. We've got the little AI gadgets that they use, which are pretty cool. Underground member. We got the voice. So this is cool. It's even given us like a feeling of like, hey, these are notes for the characters for this movie. Okay, so next up, we're ready to go. We've ingested, we've locked the characters, we've set the aesthetic, so now it's time to generate the storyboard. So yes, continue. We're going to generate scene 1 for this video, and maybe in the future you'll see this movie on the big screen. Really impressive here, like the way it puts text everywhere. I mean, it's pretty insane, really. Okay, just got back from the beach while this generated 26 panels for the scene 1 storyboard. Oh, and it made an HTML page too. Okay. I am excited, guys. All right, so this is our storyboard, scene 1. All right, little work needs to be done here. It generated these in 1:1, not 16:9, which is a bit of a bummer. So we got our characters over here. And then these are the shots. Okay, so let's just scroll through it. Can I use the arrow keys? I do not like this interface at all. Cool. Wow. Super Big Brother like. There's the pocket mind. Wonder, is that Captain Jack's right there and they're wrong? That is definitely Captain Jack's. Well, they put the text of the dialogue down there. All right. Okay. In the future, these shots should be 16 aspect ratio. So we're just going to say that for now. Yeah, okay. So next what we need is a description of the shot. And then we can turn it to video. So we fixed the 16:9 resolution thing. Now I'm telling it to add a part to the pipeline, add a part of the workflow that also creates a video prompt describing motion over time to go with that storyboard. So then with the video generator, we give the first frame and we give the prompt. Like, this is what happens from this first frame. And it's going to be super detailed. How accurate that's going to be when it gets generated, that's another story altogether. But now it's going to do a whole bunch of work here on adding this to the pipeline. And I probably should have done this in the very beginning. I didn't even think about it because I kind of thought I would do the video generations manually, but I still should have had to do the prompts. So once again, this is what we call intention-driven development. You iterate, you iterate, you iterate. Your intention becomes more clear. You can more clearly communicate what you want, be more confident in that vision. It's just a process. It's just a process. So we're going to let this run, and I'm going to have it generate the video prompts, and then we're going to take a look at turning this into a video. Okay, so now I fast forwarded a bit. I have our harness generating video shots for each storyboard shot. Now that's using Veo 3.1, so they're automatically 8 seconds, and some of these shots are going to need to be cut, right? But and then it's creating a JSON file with the prompt here, so we can see the image prompt, the original image prompt, and then the actual video prompt. And then it created a new agent. The prompt engineer is the agent for character consistency and also for the video prompts. And then it's got all these skills here now. I'm using Venice API for videos and images, so it's got a skill for that. Shot composition, we saw those earlier. And new commands for generating videos. So far I've got like 6 of these shots done. And it's like, holy moly. Like, I don't know how well this is going to work out with all the character consistency. And like I mentioned earlier, I don't know if all the endpoints we're going to need to like really make this high grade are available currently. This is crazy. So yeah, it's creating these shots now. It's going to make 26 of them. And then I'm going to put together the story, and then I'm going to show you what I got. And we've got the beginnings of a movie. All right, so I've got all the shots here in Final Cut. This is just scene 1, and I realized it's not even the full first scene. And what it gave me was just 26 shots to put together this first scene. And as we can see in the screenplay, it basically gave me like just this. It gave me 26 shots just for that, which is supposed to be 45 seconds, roughly, if one page is 1 minute. So like I'm having it do scene 2 now, but I'm just noticing now there's going to be a big job here in putting it all together. I'm also seeing it could use a shot that doesn't have anyone in it, like just this empty hallway I think would be cool in the beginning. But there's some cool shots here. Like, I love that. I'll go through it fast. That comes in later, so like that needs to be later. I'm not sure exactly how it like that shot should probably be there. So there, it gets his, I don't know, his tool. Maybe it'll cut to that. So there's a weird lighting shift here. See so that's kind of a bummer. So yeah, I mean, like, to do this right, which at this point I'm ready to go for it. It's like every shot we gotta be really meticulous about. I guess I could do some color correction there. And I like this shot. That looks very AI. I'm also noticing we're only seeing like the bad guys right now, which is like technically our protagonist before he knows there's a bad guy. And then there's like the soldier officers, there's the officers, then there's these like compliance technicians, and then somewhere in here there's the actual soldiers. Yeah, so I mean I could definitely make this into like a fun art film. But anyway, yeah. So we have almost 3 minutes of footage here that needs to be turned into less than a minute. So there's a big editing job here too. If anyone wants it, leave a comment. Maybe let's make a movie together, right? And this is just so exciting to see this come to life just from this screenplay I made for a demo YouTube video is now becoming a movie, apparently. Crazy. So once again, AI Captain's Academy, that's what this movie is based on. If you want to explore this stuff and learn with us, join us. Say hello. It's a great place, great community. And I hope you're inspired and excited. I know I am. I don't know where I'm going to find time to work on a movie now, but these harnesses, it's like it takes all the hard work out of the equation, especially when we just refine it. We just got to keep refining. Like right here, I'm just having it generate the second scene, and then I'm going to kind of have a better idea of how it's doing it. So then I'm going to go through and like work on these rules again. So let's see. Let's just look at scene 2 before we sign off. Yeah, okay. So there's the lady, the kid. That's where we get some action. I'm resubscribing. I just need it. Unlicensed intelligence hardware. You know that's a violation. No, you can't. I understand. I'll note that you were cooperative. He's a nice guy. And this guy breaks it. And yeah, I mean, I'd say the character lock is pretty good with Captain Jax. Obviously not perfect. It's pretty good. I don't even know how it's doing that character lock, but it's doing it. So happy building out there. Make sure to subscribe. I'll see you in another video. And if you know Ben Affleck, send him this video, okay? Thanks. Okay?
subscription mandate, Block 14, Unit 9. Standard compliance.
Open the door, please.
Ma'am, your household subscription lapsed 11 days ago.
I know. I'm resubscribing.
Hey, Captain, take a look at this.
Unlicensed intelligence hardware. You know that's a violation.
It's a tutor.
I'll note that you were cooperative.